Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the next installment of Research Rundown, History and Genealogy How-Tos from the Department of Archives and History. My name is Scotty Kirkland, and I serve as the Exhibits, Publications, and Programs Coordinator here at the Archives. Before we introduce today's speaker, just a few quick announcements. The first is an important note about our building. It's inventory week here at the Archives, and that means that the EBSCO Research Room is closed today, January 8th, through Friday, January 12th. Now, the research room will reopen on Saturday, January the 13th, regular hours on Saturday from 8:30 until 4:30. The museum store at the Archives is closed this week as well. All normal operations will resume on Tuesday, January 16th. While this yearly behind the scenes work is underway, you can still explore the Museum of Alabama and our temporary exhibit on preserving the state's Rosenwald schools in person on the second floor of the Archives. And you can explore the rich digital collections available anytime on our agency's website, archives.alabama.gov. Our 2024 slate of programs for Food for Thought will begin next Thursday, January 18th at noon with Dr. Dan T. Carter. He will untangle the double life of political advisor and writer Asa Carter, and you can attend that program in person at the Archives or watch it here via live stream. For the full schedule of these programs, which are held the third Thursday of every month and have been done so for the past 35 years, you can visit our website. Our Food for Thought programs are sponsored by the Alabama Humanities Alliance and the Friends of the Alabama Archives. Finally, the next installment of Research Rundown will be held on Monday, February 5th at noon. You can join us right here virtually for that program when reference archivist Erica Eves will discuss the wealth of historical and genealogical information found in the records of the Freedmen's Bank and other sources of the Reconstruction era. Our speaker for today's program is Dr. Hayden McDaniel. A native of the Wiregrass, she holds degrees in history and English from Troy University and Auburn University, and a PhD in American history from the University of Southern Mississippi. She has served as an education curator at the Archives for almost 6 years next week, I believe. Her topic today is something near and dear to her heart, the Innovative Alabama History Hub. Hayden, welcome to Research Rundown.
Thank you, Scotty. And thank all y'all out there in the internet world for being with us today on your lunch break or wherever you are today. As you mentioned, yes, this is certainly a project and a resource that is very near and dear to my heart. I was fortunate enough to be able to work very closely on its inception and design. And then I got to do the hard work, which you'll get to see the fruits of throughout the presentation today. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and pop up my slide presentation. And I have organized the presentation into a few different themes. The first being is, why does the History Hub exist? And you'll understand why I'm jumping into this first, because the idea began with the Alabama Bicentennial, who made it its mission, part of its core mission, ensuring resources were available for the K-12 community. This was a three-pronged approach with primary source packets and pedagogical resources as one of the main ways to encourage successful teaching of Alabama history. Lessons and activities were nothing new to the Archives. We've been doing that consistently throughout our existence, and the Bicentennial just presented an opportunity to further expand the offerings already available on the Archives' digital collections and present the material in an accessible way. The conclusion of the Bicentennial in 2019 also coincided with updates to the Archives website. As I mentioned, I got to be a part of this restructuring, but there was a concerted effort in that development to keep that momentum going towards educational initiatives and provide a convenient web presence specifically targeted to the K-12 community. So we did lots of research on similar options that are available across the country, and we really liked the usability of the Smithsonian's History Explorer. The History Hub is modeled on the best features of the History Explorer, And at this point, I do want to give a shout out to the state's Office of Information Technology, who took all of our ideas, stuff that they weren't super familiar with, and engineered an excellent website that turned out into the History Hub. We were so excited to get the keys to the website and begin uploading materials in August of 2022. So what is the History Hub? Well, the History Hub, in its broadest sense, is a clearinghouse for primary source packets and classroom materials intended to aid in the teaching of Alabama history, and in making sure we can incorporate that seamlessly in all areas of the social studies. To start, primary source packets are a product that many other institutions, nationally recognized, have been doing for a long time. So we also decided to follow that trend. What this does is focuses the material that a visitor has to sort of sort through and look through. Following on our museum galleries spaces organization, the History Hub is arranged chronologically by sections of our Voices Gallery. If you're familiar with Dr. Bridges' book that was produced for the bicentennial, it also follows that chronology. So packets on the History Hub generally include 7 to 15 items relating to different topics or eras in Alabama's history. The items are meant to represent the high points someone should take away about the period and how Alabama experienced it. Being a historian by trade, I want to make sure that if this is the only thing that someone sees about this time period, that they not only have a general idea, a good sense of the overall concepts, but also some of the counter concepts that complicate that particular time period. While most items are in that 7 to 15 item range, some are more and some are less. You'll just have to get on there and look for yourself. Regardless, though, I do want to just make sure, and I'll probably say this a couple of times through this presentation, if you get on there and you start to see something that, I really want more information about this, or you covered this in this packet, but you didn't cover this, and I'd really like to see something about that. I'm all ears, and I want you to reach out to me and let me know those things. That is incredibly helpful. I look forward to receiving those types of emails, and my contact information will be at the end of this presentation. So again, the selected items are also meant to include various types of resources, including written documents, of course, but also photographs, artifact images, maps, and more. This can help meet not only social studies standards, but can help reach other standards as well. In addition to primary source packets, the History Hub includes learning activities, full lessons, games, and worksheets that can be easily incorporated into the curriculum. So now the parts that you've probably been waiting for. When can I actually see this thing? And the answer is right now. So I'm going to navigate for you over to our History Hub. What you're looking at now is the landing page. You navigate there from our main page, archives.alabama.gov, toggle over the Teach and Learn section, and click on History Hub. And that's where we are right now. So this is arranged by the different sections of our Alabama Voices Gallery. We have also tacked on approximate periodizations as well to give the visitor an idea of what we're meaning by each period. Once you're on the page, you'll have an opportunity to search a couple different ways. You can keyword search, or you can search by filter by resource type, grade level. And again, this is another way for you to navigate by topic or time period, as well as cross-curricular connection, or any combination of those, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. First, though, what I want to do is show you an example navigation to show the various features on the hub. I'm going to navigate to Mines, Mills, and Mules, which encompasses the period after Reconstruction and before the First World War, if you're thinking historically about that. First of all, you can see that the keyword function and all those sort of filters follow over onto this page. So again, thinking back to usability and wanting to be convenient, we wanted to make sure that this was, again, super easy to use, super easy to understand. Something else to know about the site. So we've done nothing else but click on Mines, Mills, and Mules. But something to know is that the newest material, and that can mean either historically speaking or the newest produced material in the case of lessons and things like that, appear first in the order. So to get into the materials, you'll see several different types of entries in each section. Anything that's not a primary source packet will have a little icon. So this first one, circling that's a little dice, and that's just to indicate that is a game. Most of our games that are located on the History Hub are for Breakout EDU, and if you're not familiar with that, it is modeled after the escape room concept, but it uses primary sources and historical critical thinking skills to sort of crack a problem. And this one, again, is called Plowing Up Trouble. There's one on Helen Keller. We have several others also available on the History Hub. The icon showing the person at the desk is a worksheet. And many of these have been used with success in classrooms in addition to a museum environment. So you know you're kind of getting something that's tried and true. The third kind of icon is this paper and pencil. And those are going to be your lessons or activities, learning activities that can be incorporated into your instruction. A lot of these have been written by classroom teachers. So you know that again, what you're getting is something that someone who's right where you are knows how to use and has done with success with their students. But I will also say the education staff did a significant overhaul of reviewing all the lessons that we made available. And so the only things that you're going to find there are things that are ready to roll and the very best. So now I want to walk through the primary source packets themselves. I'm going to toggle over to page 2, where we find a packet focusing on populism in Alabama. So we scroll down. Again, it's by time. So we're not the newest material, but we're just a little bit before the turn of the 20th century, right? So this is probably a personal point of privilege here, but I chose to focus on this period for a few reasons. First, I think this does a good job of showing the different types of sources that you could find in a primary source packet. Also, I find it a period of Alabama's history that doesn't get enough focus, and I'll explain more as I move through the resource. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this right here, which is a political advertisement for populist candidate for governor Reuben F. Cole from Barber County. Items like these are useful to compare across time, of course, but also political race for one, and this one is just about Cole. You can also download the item from this place, and that's going to be the highest resolution image that we have, so that you know you're getting a good resolution there. Below the item, you see a series of information, and that's what's called metadata. It's a fancy word that just means data about the data. In other words, components that describe the primary source. So of course, you've got the title, you've got a brief description of what it is, and you've got the date which it's produced. And all these things are going to be critical components to put together and to think through that particular time period. Also, it's important to know that it shows which grade levels that this can apply to, as well as specific standards that it can address, and I'll point to that momentarily. The standards are often not specific in guiding instruction towards the populist movement. Populism appears once, that word, and the variant populist appears 3 times throughout the standards. But there are standards that address limitations of progressivism, America's transition from an agrarian to an industrial nation, and social changes of the late 19th century, which all encompass the populist moment. In a place like Alabama, populism was especially important. So we also think it's important we provide resources that help encourage focus on it. So just to show you, this complies with standard grade 4, standard number 10. And when you click on that, it takes you right to that standard, which again is analyze social and educational changes during the late 19th and early 20th century for their impact on Alabama. And of course, populism certainly fits that bill. I also want to show, just for example, again, a different grade level. So I'll click 11.1. Again, like I mentioned, explain the transition of the United States from an agrarian society to industrial nation prior to World War I. You will see that populist does actually appear in the bullets to that section. So the final thing that I'll note about that kind of relates back to how you can search the website is the cross-curricular connections. And this one, of course, dealing with the political race can encompass civics, economics, because again, addressing that populist part, but then government as well. The final thing I want to point out is the URLs at the bottom. And the first is a link to where this exists, this item exists on the digital collections, whether it's ours or another institution's. And in this case, it does belong to us because we always want to give credit. We know we want to show our work. We want to show where it's sourced from. So this is where it is on our digital collections, and you'll see some more extensive metadata there. Then, and I hope Laura or somebody from Encyclopedia of Alabama is out there, because I always got to do my shout out for EOA, and I know these are old URLs. I'm so sorry, but I will update them. We link out to historical context available at the Encyclopedia of Alabama. This could be the movement that we're talking about. This could be the individual or the place, if it makes sense. But it's to provide more context about the item, to make sure that, you know, if you're going to go in there talking about this, you know the kind of place that it emerged from. So with this item, I've linked out to a couple of different ones. The first being populism in Alabama. And so this is going to be a vetted and edited article that's going to give you crucial information about the period, and it's also going to link you to additional resources. And then there's the article about Reuben Kolb himself. So if you don't know about the Encyclopedia of Alabama, I encourage you to take a look. I encourage you to spend some time with it. There aren't just history-related articles. It includes entries on places. It includes things on nature, organizations, all kinds of stuff. But if it's related to Alabama in some way, then it's probably there. And if it's not, I bet you it's in the works. So we love EOA, and we want to make sure that teachers know about it and that we provide that context for the sources. So when you're ready to view another item, you'll want to scroll back to the top and click the Back to Search Results button. This was just how the database was created. And so in order to maintain its functionality, just use those links. So you can see that there are both written and visual materials here, including a political cartoon and the mural of the populist scuffle in Dothan. Each item will have the same information that I walked through with the advertisement, the political advertisement. So now what we're going to do is move back to the previous page to browse more items related to the period at the end of the 19th and into the 20th century. Just as we did with this individual item, we clicked that back to search results. So now that we're back on this screen, I want to show you how to filter results within each section. On the right-hand side, you will find these little check boxes. And if I only want to find lessons related to 4th grade, for example, I can filter the results. So here I'm doing it. You see it does it live. So now I know that these are all potential lessons that I can look through that relate to this sort of time period. The search features at the top accomplish a similar goal. So return to the main screen, I'm going to click reset, again, to maintain functionality and to not make your browser upset. You're going to want to make sure you go backwards the way that I showed you. This simply just resets the search and takes you back to the main page. So what I want to do here is just show you how you can use this top material to then navigate the History Hub. So I'm going to choose primary sources that focus on grade 4. So this can help you with planning for the year because, again, you can go down by standard, but you can also see here what I mentioned earlier about sources appearing most recent to kind of oldest, because here's September 11th, 2001, which is a relatively new packet that we've added, but it is going to be the most recent that packet historical topic that we do have on the History Hub. So on the back end of each item, I've also added additional keywords that will allow you to search by even related search terms in order to find the item you need. So if you only know a few things about the topic you're looking for, hopefully I've been able to land on some of those parallel items, parallel words to help you find what you need. So there are obviously all kinds of different ways I could spend all day sort of navigating this for you, but what I've shown you will get you started. It will help you understand the navigability of the History Hub. But if you have questions, or if you want to see more, or you want to know more, you can always reach out to me. So I encourage you all to play around with it and let us know how we can improve it. So at this time, I'm going to toggle back over to my slide presentation. So what's next for the History Hub? Oops, I didn't mean to do that. What's next for the History Hub? First of all, if you don't know about the Alabama History Institutes, you should. They are immersive professional development experiences for public, private, and homeschool educators of grades K through 12. These are sponsored by the Archives, and they are held across the state during the month of June. These focus on strengthening skills to teach Alabama history. They are also conducted, which is the really cool part of these, by current classroom educators. So you know that everything you hear will be readily applicable in the classroom or with children. So through the workshops, we're able to find and solicit new innovative lessons and activities that we want to add to the hub. We definitely have some eras that we would like to provide more resources for, and AHI provides a great venue and opportunity to do that. We hear so many interesting, and I'm not kidding you, when you visit these workshops and you get to talking to the teachers and their interest levels, they are interested in the things that we need to provide on our History Hub. And I am excited to bring those innovations to more people across the state and to beyond, because Alabama history in many ways is applicable nationally. Next, our digital assets team, shout out to y'all. Y'all do a fantastic job. They are continuously digitizing new materials to make available on our digital collections page, and that's digital.archives.alabama.gov. You'll get lost there too. There's so many wonderful things. As we continue to move forward in history, and as we continue to amass resources from the more recent past, those areas become open to exploring pedagogically. So the more we see, the more interest about the 90s, for example, then we'll start making resources available for that. Also, something we're excited to add to the History Hub is a category called Teacher Resources. And this will be items that are outside of the scope of what already exists, what I've shown you, and will include vetted resources that deepen understanding of different aspects of not only the history discipline, about archives, and different historical topics and themes. So if you have any questions or feedback for me, I encourage you to reach out. This is my email address, and again, it's open. And I'd love to hear from folks that have seen this presentation or have questions about the History Hub or have recommendations about it, because I definitely take those to heart and bring them forward, because we hope to continue building this resource to make it a one-stop shop for finding resources to effortlessly incorporate Alabama history in all grades. So I appreciate y'all. That's what I have.
All right. Well, thanks, Hayden. That was wonderful for that great presentation and very visually interesting as well. A 64-bit version of PowerPoint. Love that. We do have some time, visitors. If you're watching with us today and you have a question for Dr. McDaniel, just drop it into the chat there. We can see it, and we'll be glad to talk about it. Glad that you mentioned the history institutes there at the end. So important. Such a great way to not only share the resources of the state, but as you said, to sort of build out, continually build out the History Hub as a resource built by teachers for teachers, which is really great. Talk to us just briefly. I know we have pretty soon we'll open registration for the next Alabama History Institute in June. Tell us how people can learn more about that and what it'll look like when they register, please.
So we are very excited about our summer's offerings. We're going to have 9 different locations across the state. So that is the teaser I can give you, but there will be more to come. And we are opening registration in the next week or so. So if you want to know about applications, there's a couple of ways that I can recommend you to do so. One is being on our constant contact for the archives. If you're not on there and want to be, if it's easy to just reach out to me. We'll get you on there to make sure that you receive the first notice when we will open that application. Another great way, and honestly, we hear it's probably the most used way, is to be on social media. And so that includes not only the archive social media, which you're on right now, but it also includes the Alabama History Institute's social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter/X, and Instagram, and we will post that information as soon as we open it on social media. So if you're not following the archives, do so. If you're not following AHI, I encourage you to do so, because something that's really unique, again, not only are teachers running our workshops, but in June, we hand over the keys to our social media to them, and you really get the firsthand observation of how wonderful they pack their workshops with, and it is really inspirational. So I encourage you to follow it, if nothing else but for that.
Great, thank you. A couple of testimonials in the chat from some former participants, so those are
wonderful.
Good. Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned right at the end these ideas about continually working to create packets about the more recent past, and that's something I know that you work on a lot. Tell me how you, as both a historian and as the education curator, tell me how you go about that type of work.
Well, it honestly is word of mouth. The September 11th one, we had heard anecdotally from a lot of the 4th grade teachers that we work with that their students are asking about 9/11, because this is obviously before they were even thought about in many cases. So actually putting together and to step away from a personal role, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is something that I experienced, but then to actually dig deep into it as a historian, and what do I remember, and how can that benefit me when putting together a packet that talks about some of the major things that happened in the immediate aftermath of that. So honestly, I listen to our teachers that we work with. It's great to have a ready-made focus group sort of to see what folks are pushing to, and again, knowing what I know about our digital collections and how those are continuing to expand, and how we're starting to see things from the 90s and early aughts to be historically relevant. So we want to make sure that we're also following those trends and making sure that that those resources are available.
Great. Putting primary resources in the hands of students and teachers. That's really important. A question on YouTube from JT Taylor. Will the History Hub be more focused on genealogy in the future, or will it stay focused on education? I guess the question there would be, is there a way to bridge genealogy resources for teachers? Is that something maybe for the future, or is that something better for other places on the website maybe?
I think we could probably lean into some of the benefits of understanding genealogy for certain time periods. For example, I think we could certainly strengthen what we have available on slavery, for example, with knowledge about how people can go about genealogical research in that regard. I do think at the end of the day, it's all going to have to circle back to what are educators going to need and what's going to help them understand what's available. So yes and no.
Okay. Very important information there. And want to just take another moment, Hayden, to thank you and the other members of our staff for their work on the innovative Alabama History Hub. And you can learn more information about that wonderful resource and about the Alabama History Institute on our website and social media. That's going to conclude today's research rundown, Navigating the Alabama History Hub. We'd like to thank you for joining us and invite you to come back next month as we learn about Reconstructionary resources from the Freedmen's Bank with Erica Eves. That'll be on Monday, February 5th at noon. Thank you, everybody. Be well.